With the current 5.2 average rating on IMDb over its 15 episodes so far, season 23 is just not hitting the same with audiences.
Well, we don't like your jokes, and Will Smith said we're allowed to hit comics.
But that got us thinking, what actually is the worst rated season of Family Guy? So we decided to assemble all the scientists, mathematicians, number crunchers, and pro counters we could find to calculate this impossible equation. Actually, we just went on IMDb and calculated the average episode score of every season. Elementary school level math has come to save us yet again. So let's take a look at what we found were the top 10 worst seasons of Family Guy by their rating and see why these seasons are considered the lowest of the low. And we're kicking things off with season 14, which ran from September 2015 to May 2016 and has an average episode rating of 6.96. Overall, this was just a pretty middling season without a ton of home runs, but not exactly any strikeouts either. That's football terminology for those of you who aren't in the know.
Stewie! Run from the monster, you might have to drive.
The season does have a standout episode, that being the 15th episode, A Lot Going On Upstairs, which features two separate stories revolving around Peter turning the attic into a man cave.
What are you gonna do up here?
Mostly just burn the roof of my mouth on unevenly heated microwave burritos.
And Stewie enlisting the help of Brian to help him conquer his nightmares and his own self-doubts.
You know, that Glenn Close salad actually wasn't bad.
Yeah, a lot of my dreams have pretty good salad.
That episode has a 7.9 star rating on IMDb, which is honestly pretty high for a later season episode. But unfortunately, this touchdown of an episode isn't really enough to make me overlook all the other fumbles from this season. That's baseball terminology for those of you who aren't in the know.
You know, this is great, guys. Drinking and eating garbage. I'm glad we all took a mental health day.
One of the lowest rated episodes of the season is Run Chris Run, which sees Chris run for Homecoming King and actually win.
And this year's James Woods High Homecoming King is Chris Griffin.
We've all seen the stories of kids winning the crown either out of pity or as some kind of mean prank. Unlike my homecoming win, which was super legitimate by the way, they were only laughing at me because I'm so funny.
I just see him walking around with his hands down his pants all day and he's just so fat and weird, so we feel bad.
Brian and Stewie try to tell Chris, but his win has already put his head far up his own butt. Not far from where he keeps his hand, as we just learned.
I can do whatever I want. I've been acknowledged by my peers as their superior.
But it takes seeing everyone at school's reactions with his own eyes to wake him up to the truth.
We love you, Chris. You love me? You don't even know anything about me.
Well, hold on now. Those cheerleaders from a couple of clips ago seem to hit all the bullet points. Are you telling me there's more to Chris than having his hand down his pants 24/7?
Oh, hey, Chris. This is Tyler. Don't make this weird now.
It's not a terrible episode, but the comedy is certainly not the strongest, and there's nothing about the episode that's all that memorable. Although we would say the lowest rated episode of the season, Peter's Sister, is a bit more memorable, just maybe not for the right reasons.
Bring it in, PP.
So the whole episode revolves around Peter's sister Karen visiting him for the first time since they were younger. She's basically Peter if he just became one big mass of muscle. While everyone else thinks Karen is great, Meg sees that all the abuse Peter suffered at her hands has transferred itself into how Peter treats Meg. Time is a flat circle and everything happens to repeat itself. But if that were true, they would have brought back Crystal Pepsi by now.
Dad, I know you can stand up to Aunt Karen. And maybe if you finally do, she'll stop terrorizing you.
And so Peter does just that, meeting her in the wrestling ring to settle their differences the only way siblings know how. With punching, blood loss, and hitting each other with whatever you can find lying around.
Say hello to Teen Laquifa!
So ignoring the fact that this is just a big middle finger to Family Guy continuity, this episode is just kinda sad and doesn't really deliver on big laughs. Still, Peter and Meg managed to have a nice father-daughter moment, so it's not all terrible. And that's kinda the best way to sum up this season as well. It's not all terrible, but it doesn't exactly have anything that gets me wanting to jump off the top rope. That's pickleball terminology for those of you who aren't in the know. And up next is the following season, season 15, which ran from September 2016 to May 2017, and also has an average episode rating of 6.96. So really it's a bit of a toss-up between season 14 and 15 from a logistical sense, but in our personal opinion, we found that season 15 just has slightly weaker episodes.
Hi, Peter. You know how you like $40 cash? Well, here's almost $40 cash.
One of the lowest rated episodes of the season is episode 17, Peter's Lost Youth, where Peter gets shown up by Lois when they win a trip to play baseball at Fenway Park.
Guess you don't have a lot of babes out here, except for Babe Ruth.
Not sure why she's making a football reference on the baseball field, but whatever. In typical fashion, Lois ends up being far more liked than Peter, so she gets to live out all his dream scenarios.
But this is Peter's weekend.
Don't worry about Peter.
But you've always got to be worried about Peter. You take your eye off him long enough and suddenly all your money's gone and Florida's sunk into the ocean. But they're a healthy couple, right? Maybe they can talk this out in a way that makes this weekend enjoyable for both of them. Yeah, a good slide tackle is usually the first thing a couples counselor recommends, but Peter's recklessness ends up getting him kicked off the experience.
And you're done. Clean out your locker.
But after they make up, Lois uses her pole to get Peter back on the team and live his dream of playing at Fenway.
I ran like a champion that day, pushing through the pain of 2 torn hamstrings and a ruptured groin.
He got those injuries just walking up to the plate, by the way. It has its moments, but it's still definitely one of the weaker offerings of season 15. But it seems generally understood that the least liked episode from this season is the celebrity starring episode Gronkowski's.
What's up, butt munchers?
That's us! He called us butt munchers!
So the newest resident of Spooner Street is former tight end of the New England Patriots, Rob Gronkowski, who we all decided was a big deal outside of football for some reason before we replaced him with Travis Kelce.
Check it out. My hot tub is filled with coffee. Grab a donut. Go to town. Sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts.
Where does he think this is? Simpsonville? Where the Simpsons live? But while Peter likes having a star athlete as a neighbor for a while, the cool factor quickly starts to wear off.
Noise! Noise! Loud noise, and a Civil War cannon!
Unfortunately, Gronk isn't too interested in leaving the hustle and bustle of a quiet Rhode Island suburb.
Also, I'm insane! Eat a butt, fatty. Gronk ain't going nowhere.
This looks like a job for the B plot, which also happens to be a B plot.
Dad, start up the party bus. We're moving.
Bees?
Yeah, bees.
I guess all those concussions to Gronk's head did pay off for the guys. Never change, NFL. But yeah, this wasn't the most amazing celebrity episode the show's done. You can kind of tell when an actor doesn't really have their whole heart in the performance or just isn't cut out for voice acting. And we think Gronk is kind of the latter. Like we said, season 14 and 15 are more or less interchangeable, not really offering the best or the worst, but something in the middle. But unlike that season of Family Guy, we don't stand for something in the middle. That's where today's sponsor, Manscaped, comes in. That's right, Manscaped, the world leader in men's grooming that knows how to treat your undercarriage with the care of a smooth, caressing wave. They're back with their all-new Performance Package 5.0 grooming set, which comes with a ton of great features like the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Razor. It comes with 2 easy-to-swap-out razors, one for trimming and one for a closer shave. And it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower or 20,000 leagues under the sea. And don't worry, it still packs their iconic skin-safe technology, so you can rest assured your nether regions are in capable hands. Also included is the Weed Whacker 2.0, designed to comfortably remove ear and nose hair without worry. And the Crop Smoother and Crop Preserver combo, which helps give your skin the moisture it needs after shaving, especially in those sensitive areas. But that's not all. The Performance Package also comes with 2 free gifts. A pair of comfy Boxers 2.0 and the handy and compact Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. So if you're ready to discover why over 12 million men worldwide love and trust Manscaped, head on over to manscaped.com/sweatyclam or use my code SWEATYCLAM to receive 15% off, free shipping, and 2 gifts. Once again, that code is SWEATYCLAM and you can use the link down in the description to get started. Thanks again to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. But up next is season 13, which ran from September 2014 to May 2015 and has an average episode rating of 6.82 stars. But how could a season that starts off with one of the greatest episodes ever be that bad?
Well, there's a sign.
Yeah, season 13 kicks off with one of the most anticipated crossovers ever dreamt upon. And honestly, the episode is super fun considering you get to see a lot of highly anticipated character interactions.
Eat my shorts.
Eat my shorts. I love that.
The phrase or the act of eating shorts? I won't judge either way outside of the fact that my perception of you will heavily change. And of course, it finally made the show address all the criticisms it was thrown about being a copy of The Simpsons.
Several other Duff variations, packages, and design elements have been similarly infringed.
You heard him, folks. No one can do a news reporter or a principal character because The Simpsons did it first. So naturally, this leads to an intense final battle to find out who's the greatest animated sitcom dad. If I had to pick a winner, I'd probably say Hank Hill. But even though the season started strong, it was all more or less downhill from here. Season 13 is home to some of the show's most controversial and disliked episodes, such as the 2,000-year-old virgin.
Very nice place here. This is not too good.
So in this episode, Peter decides to throw Jesus a birthday party, but makes a life-changing discovery.
Are you a
Yeah, I am.
Cut the guy a break. It's not easy to lose your V-card when you're busy dying and ascending to heaven. Luckily, Peter's here to help Jesus get with any girl that he wants, but Jesus doesn't want just any girl.
Actually, Peter, I want my first time to be with Lois.
I'm sure there's a verse in the Bible that says it's okay, though it may be written in Sharpie and suspiciously look like Jesus' handwriting. Peter agrees at first, but later has post-massage chair clarity.
Listen, pal, Jesus ain't no He did the same thing to me last Christmas.
Yeah, it turns out Jesus is running a cucking grift, and Peter is his next victim. Luckily, Peter gets to Lois before anything happens.
Seems like you folks learned the lesson I intended.
Yeah, it's to not sleep with someone almost 2,000 years older than you. Those guys are creeps. Sorry if you're a fan of that shipping dynamic, but you had to hear it one day. While the episode has its funny moments, the portrayal of Jesus in this manner rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, hence why it has such a low score on IMDb. But the lowest scoring episode of season 13 is the ever controversial Stewie is on Sant.
Brian, we're pregnant! Oh my god! And in 18 years he's going to move away!
So yeah, Stewie decides to make himself get pregnant with Brian's child so they can spend more time together. Hilarious prank to pull on your bros if you're looking for any inspiration.
Jeez, how far along are you? I'm not really sure. 2 days, 6 months?
And Stewie carries all the way to term, resulting in potentially the most horrific birth to ever happen in a car seat, outside of my own.
There's more! And they're coming out of everywhere! Ah! Kill me! This hurts too much! Holy
So Stewie gives birth to a litter of adorable abominations, but they start dropping like flies after a few days.
Yeah, the deaf one didn't hear Joe's lawnmower.
Oh, that's really upsetting.
About as upsetting as having to watch a toddler go through childbirth. If you look around in online communities, Stewie is on Sant is often regarded as one of the grossest Family Guy episodes, even if there is a little bit of humor to the absurdity of it all. But combine this with Jesus trying to sleep with people's wives, Quagmire going to jail for sleeping with a minor, and Joe thinking his life is Jover, you've got a pretty rough season. And following that, we have season 19, which ran from September 2020 to May 2021, and has an average episode rating of 6.67 stars. Truthfully, we were a little surprised to see this one as low as it is, because it has a few modern episodes we quite enjoy.
I need your gun.
No problem, evil-looking Peter.
Such as the highest rated episode of the season, Pete Terminator, where a robotic replica of Peter returns to the past to kill Stewie.
I created you! Now I order you to stand down!
One day you're building them in your room, and the next day they're trying to kill you. Building killer robots really is a thankless job. Brian and Stewie try to escape the android, but they eventually find out exactly who sent it back in time.
You are Brian Griffin. You programmed me to kill your enemy, Stuart Griffin.
Either Brian got really smart in the future, or this robot building thing is easier than it looks. I'm gonna try to turn my toaster into a killing machine, and I'll report back. It turns out that the two friends go to war with each other in the future, which leads to a bunch of robotic replicas of people in town being sent back to kill them.
Oh my god, look!
So, what can save the future from becoming a post-apocalyptic hellscape? Well, a quick tonguing with your bro was not what I thought, but it does work.
Brian, it's working!
How much longer?
Sorry, didn't realize it was such a chore.
It's actually a fairly solid episode overall, and the season also has some other decent contenders like Customer of the Week and Family Cat. But there's some episodes that drag the season down, whether it be for their overtly political subject matter or because of their needless cruelty.
Pawtucket Pat is the most revered person in Quahog.
Not anymore. This is a big story.
The episode Pawtucket Pat would be an example of the former, as Brian would discover that the Quahog icon stole the recipe for his beer from Native Americans and then killed them to cover it up.
Why are you so upset about Pat?
Pawtucket Pat was a phony!
Hey, it's that guy! Did you know he was called Holden Caulfield by fans because of calling people phonies like the character of the same name from The Catcher in the Rye, and that it actually made its way into the show? Oh, and The Catcher in the Rye is a book, if you didn't know. And a book is a collection of papers with words on them that tell a story, in case you didn't know.
And his statue is part of the town. I'll be damned if I'm gonna let some draft-dodging liberals tear it down.
So Brian and Stewie decide to tear the statue of Pat down themselves, which leads to a standoff between opposers and supporters the next day. But the Native American tribe that the beer was stolen from makes an appearance to set things straight.
The pressing issue isn't what someone did 300 years ago. It's how do we help Native Americans today?
Needless to say, a lot of viewers didn't care for the straight and narrow political messages in this episode, even if they're reflective of the time we're living in. But, you know, having jokes in your comedy TV show probably wouldn't have been a bad idea either. But then there's also the episode Boys and Squirrels, which introduced us to a cute baby squirrel.
Aw, poor thing must have been living in the tree. And its foot seems hurt.
Which is then brutally killed. That's fine. I was getting tired of enjoying the beauty and wonder of nature anyway. But yeah, it turns out people are kinda over Family Guy's use of brutal violence to punctuate a joke, or the fact that Stewie and Chris were more or less portrayed as a couple in this.
Go ahead, show him those girls you follow on Instagram. It's all bosoms and derrieres on there.
We definitely understand the complaints this season gets, but honestly, we don't hate it. It's far from the best late-era Family Guy has to offer, but there are some episodes worth giving a watch. And at the halfway point, we have Season 21, which started in September 2022 and ran to September 2023, with an average star rating of 6.64. Like Season 19, Season 21 is also home to what we consider some of the better recent episodes, with the Stowaway, the Manchurian Candidate, and one of our personal favorite Lois episodes, a bottle episode.
Yo! That's borderline huge, Mom!
In that episode, Lois's stealing of a shampoo bottle from an Airbnb gets her banned from the service.
I'm banned from Airbnb?
If you're a sicko like me who enjoys a good Crazy Lois episode, then this one's for you. Lois tries to make peace by returning the bottle, but when the host refuses to lift her ban, Lois has to take matters into her own hands.
Wouldn't it be a shame if one of only 2 DoorDash drivers on the island gave you a poor review?
Yeah, she starts door dashing in a town she doesn't live in just for an opportunity to leave that woman a bad review. Oh, Lois, how I started liking you much more once a few of those screws in your head came loose.
So if you ever think of giving someone a bad review again, remember this. We know where you live.
Every season usually has at least one episode that makes it all worth it, and for me, that's a bottle episode. But the general consensus about the rest of the season is that a lot of the stories either feel underdeveloped, half-baked, or just straight up pointless.
What the hell is he doing?
He's doing what he does every Father's Day, waiting to shoot his dad.
This is no more apparent than in the episode Old West, where the guys try to get Mayor Wild West to reconnect with his father, Old West.
I came here to make things right.
You lost the right to make amends the day you walked out on me and Ma.
Isn't the character of Wild West just so exciting? Episodes prominently featuring him have about the same strength as Melatonin, and adding his dad into the mix doesn't really help, despite Peter trying to make him a hip and cool dad.
The jean shorts say you're impotent, and the sunglasses say you stormed the Capitol.
The father and son do eventually reach an understanding, but when nobody really cared about either of these characters in the first place, this emotional moment just doesn't land.
Happy Father's Day. I never want to see you again.
You never will.
I would also like to hope I'll never see him again, except for when I'm having trouble falling asleep. Old West is one of the lowest rated episodes in this series and has been seen as a sign that the show doesn't really know where to go from here. It's not the episode ideas that are the issue, but rather the execution.
Hey, check it out. A flyer for a missing dog with a $1,000 reward.
Take the episode Vatman and Rob 'em, for example. It has some relatively fun ideas, like Brian pretending to be a missing dog and Peter hosting an after-hours bar in the brewery.
Let's promise each other we're not gonna blow it on mistresses and drug habits.
Agreed.
Hey, so quick update.
Not a terrible premise, right? But the comedy lacks the cleverness the show was known for back in the day, while the plots kinda just meander their way into their climaxes.
It's Bush League, man!
Episodes like these aren't shockingly bad, but they're just missing something. Heart? Purpose? Talent? Who's to say? Well, the reviewers on IMDb, I guess. And us. And most likely you. And up next is Season 18, which ran from September 2019 to May 2020 and has an average episode score of 6.62. Much like the previous season, Season 18 is essentially a showcase of the series' middling quality. As we get farther down this list, we're bound to find fewer and fewer standout episodes that make these seasons worth checking out. Can you imagine a flash-forward episode not even being enough to win people over?
Stewie, Peter is dying.
What? We happen to like that episode, but even we can see that the quality's not up to snuff, despite the ideas that have a lot of potential. There are certainly some creative episodes here, like Peter falling into a coma and Meg ruining Christmas with her disturbing womanhood experience. But the execution just ends up being middle of the road, while a lot of the other episodes in the season are just downright skippable.
So, you want to name more stuff?
That's all we ever do.
Take the 19th episode of the season, Holly Bibble, which just feels like a retread of past episodes by retelling Bible stories through the lens of Family Guy characters.
It's not our fault! You created the most tempting thing man has ever known! A piece of fruit!
I hear that. I'd condemn the world to sin for a good apple too. So the episode parodies the story of Adam and Eve, along with the story of Noah's Ark.
Lions, you'll be with the baby antelopes. Crocodiles, you're with the water-crossing wildebeests.
Sounds better than staying at a hostel. I'll take bunking with 2 of every animal for weeks over businessmen walking around in their underwear any day. And the final part details what went on at the Last Supper.
We'll all be splitting 1 cup of wine, and can we have some bread and no other food at all?
He takes up the restaurant's biggest table, barely orders anything, and I bet he doesn't doesn't even tip. No wonder one of his friends got him arrested.
You're coming with me, buddy.
Listen, pal, I forgive you because you know not what you do, but get the hell out of here.
Like I said, Family Guy's already kind of done this Bible retelling shtick with season 11's Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and like a lot of their late game parody episodes, the jokes are basic and overall just low-hanging fruit. If the fruit had been a little higher, maybe the episode would have been better, and Adam and Eve wouldn't have ended up in that mess. And the laziness of season 18 is even more apparent in the very first episode of the season, Yacht Rocky.
This one's called Summer Breeze, and it makes me feel fine.
In this episode, the guys go on a yacht rock cruise to relax with aging rock stars.
So, Kenny, Footloose. Not really a song for everyone.
Maybe Joe would have been more of a fan of Return to Pooh Corner. That's a real Kenny Loggins song I haven't heard, but my guess is it's about getting excited to use the big handicap stall in the bathroom. But it doesn't take long for this trip to drive headfirst into the danger zone. Unfortunately, Meg's almost boyfriend is killed in the process. Even more unfortunate, being alive isn't exactly a deal breaker for her.
This is Chad! He's my boyfriend! We love each other! We said it and everything!
So after an episode consisting mostly of old celebrity jokes and talking about Meg's poop, things finally get interesting when the ship quickly sinks into the ocean.
Well, we found the thinnest part of the hull, but it's still an inch thick.
Yeah, of steel. How are we supposed to get through that?
With the water rising and breathing room quickly running out, what kind of wacky, clever, and potentially humorous way will the writers resolve this one?
Man, that was crazy.
I must admit, it does take some skill to be neither wacky, clever, nor humorous. The ending could have been funny, but when the other 99% of the episode is pretty forgettable, this just feels like a cheap cop-out. It relies on pop culture references and shocking moments like Meg's boyfriend's head falling off, but none of it really succeeds at leaving any kind of emotional impact. And that ending? Can you believe they would just cop out and cut the episode short to move on to... Anyway, let's move on to the next bad season, season 20. This season ran from September 2021 until May 2022 and has an average episode rating of 6.57. Yet another example of the show pumping out uninteresting episodes that unfortunately can't be redeemed with the writing. That's not to say this season is a total waste, however, as episodes like The Fat Man Always Rings Twice and Hard-Boiled Meg are definitely unique in their execution.
So, we're two people in a room at 8:04 a.m. Let me fix you a drink.
But when you don't have cool gimmicks or interesting execution, you get saddled with some pretty not-so-stellar episodes. Take this season's latest attempt at a movie parody episode, Rock Hard.
Jim Morrison, light my fire.
Wait a minute, what'd you just say? Say that again.
Light my fire?
Family Guy really started to lean into its movie and TV show parodies later down the line, but probably just to have an already established idea to build upon rather than coming up with a new one. Besides, we already have the greatest musical biopic parody of all time, Walk Hard, and no one should ever try their hand at it again. But the episode still tries to parody the Doors movie.
I'm ready to make this college dorm room poster.
A bit of a combination of the story of blues legend Muddy Waters and the movie Green Book.
Dear Muddy, I have something to confess. I stole all your songs, and my real name is Elvis Presley.
And the story of Elton John and Rocket Man.
It's a real sausage fest over here.
I'm going to that party.
Now, do these parodies offer any new or fun ways to view these musicians or movies? What kind of a silly question is that? Do you see how far into the video we are? Use your head! But they don't just stop at movies, as later in the season they would hit another low ball with HBO No, parodying several HBO shows like Succession.
Oh, you think you're ready, big shot? Have you even seen Boss Baby once?
Big Little Lies.
Jacksonville, if you'd like. The kids are in Stewie's room hitting the nanny with piñata sticks.
And Game of Thrones.
Be careful, John Yellowsnow.
I will be handsome, and that will be enough.
The one redeeming thing about this episode is that it may have had a better ending than how Game of Thrones actually ended, but that's not exactly a high bar to cross. But again, all this episode really does is make surface-level parodies of these shows without actually adding anything noteworthy to how we view them. But when they do try to go a more conventional route, the stories and writing just aren't up to par, like in The Jersey Boar.
Pack your bags.
I'm fired?
No. You're going on a business trip with me as my assistant.
Wow, a Preston episode? They must have written this script with NyQuil instead of ink. In theory, Preston makes for a good, serious foil for Peter, but he's just such a one-noted, flat character that it proves hard to make him an interesting addition to the show's usual tomfoolery.
If we lose this account, we lose the brewery. And then it's time to cast open the windows and drop to the freedom of the pavement.
Well, he's eloquent if nothing else, but even he makes jumping out of a window sound boring. But in an effort to make the episode a little more interesting, Peter decides to try to get Preston drunk, but we don't even get to see it. They just cut to the next morning, the Hangover style.
Guys, Preston's missing. We gotta find him.
But unfortunately, there are no tigers or Mike Tyson here like in The Hangover. Just boring work presentations and a bait-and-switch ending.
I realized only a true drunk could save the brewery. That's why I sent you that text last night.
And here we were thinking we could see something fun and interesting. Serves us right for wanting good things. Overall, this season just felt a little lazy, whether it be relying on pre-existing franchises to give you an easy layup, or just phoning in episodes with no real engaging hook to them. They aren't even using a hook anymore, just wiggling a worm in their fingers, hoping you'll take a bite. And now we get to our earliest season on this list, Season 12. It ran from September 2013 to May 2014 and has an average episode rating of 6.51. If you're familiar with Family Guy, you may notice that some of the show's most universally disliked episodes come from this season. It's a true buffet of bad, and we hope you're hungry.
Hi, everybody!
What the hell is that?
That is Chip, a vestigial twin that grew on the side of Peter's neck in the episode Vestigial Peter. The Griffin family actually grew to love the little guy.
Hey, everybody! Look who's walking!
Chip!
Audiences, on the other hand, wanted to see that thing get yeeted into a wood chipper. A lot of people just found Chip, and by extension the episode, very annoying. Are you telling me people didn't enjoy that nails on a chalkboard voice of his?
Well, I never asked to grow out of your neck! My life was better before I met you, too!
Likewise, Chip. Sure, the episode was a little annoying, but at least it's better than being disgusting like the 16th episode of the season, Herpy the Love Sore.
You son of a bitch! You gave me herpes!
This is probably what kids envisioned cooties would be like, but if you're getting that from your dog, you may need to reevaluate your life choices.
Oh my god! Your mouth looks like the underside of a boat!
Yeah, I hope you got a strong stomach because this episode hits you across the face with some pretty gross imagery. They don't even stop at just showing you animated herpes, blindsiding you with some actual pictures of the disease.
We actually just changed your profile picture.
I thought cartoons were supposed to be an escape from the real world. Now I'm gonna need a cartoon therapist after this. This episode is pretty infamous for its gross subject matter and sometimes visceral imagery, but can you believe that things get even grosser in this season?
Hey, next time I want to try it with my hand.
Season 12 is also home to the infamous episode Fresh Air, one of the series' lowest rated episodes that involves Peter wanting to marry Chris to get his new inheritance money.
Chris Griffin, will you marry me?
What? Is it even legal for a man to marry his son?
Has the law ever really applied to Peter? Are you really about to marry a guy you don't know the first thing about, Chris? Thankfully, the episode puts a stop to that before anything truly scarring can happen to Chris.
And I guess I learned it's wrong to take your son to Vermont under false pretenses to try to marry him for his inheritance.
It's a lesson we all gotta learn one day. But believe it or not, that isn't even the lowest rated episode of the season. Season 12 was also home to one of the most blatant, unashamed attempts at generating controversy and attention that the show would ever attempt.
Brian, look out!
Yep, Season 12 is home to Life of Brian, the episode that killed off Brian for a whopping 2 episodes before bringing him back. It really felt like the death of Superman, and much like that comic, it didn't last forever, and gave us an inferior temporary replacement.
I'm just a regular guy. You throw a stick, maybe I bring it back. Maybe I bring back an iPhone that fell off a truck.
Now, don't hate me, I know Vinny has shooters out there, but the show never gave him time to grow and develop, getting rid of him just a few episodes later so Brian could come back.
Good dog, Vinny. Good dog.
Because of this quick turnaround, it's clear the showrunners weren't actually looking to try anything new, but rather get people talking with a cheap emotional ploy. The show already toyed with these emotional moments in Season 9's New Kidney in Town, which feels like a mature A24 drama compared to this episode. Season 12 was kind of the turning point for the show, as it would never reach above a 7-star average again outside of Season 16. And there are 2 more seasons lower than this one? I feel like I need a holy water bath before I proceed. And coming in second to last is Season 17, which ran from September 2018 to May 2019, and has an average star rating of 6.49. You know, at a glance, this one doesn't look so terrible. There are actually a few decent episodes in here, like Big Trouble in Little Quahog.
Please tell me that's not the finger you stuck in a rat's butt.
No. I don't remember which one it was.
This Honey, I Shrunk the Kids inspired episode has a lot of the same vibes as a Road to or time travel episode and is certainly the star jewel of the season. And I'm not just saying that because we get to see the return of tiny Tom Cruise.
How can we ever repay you?
Well, you could make a sizable donation to the Church of Spaceship Beep Boop.
It looks like reaching the gas pedal of a car is his own mission impossible. So what about this season makes it one of the worst of the bunch? Well, like Season 12, its overall ranking is pulled down by 3 of the lowest rated episodes in the entire series.
Dad, I got one in my mouth. It tastes like soap. Tremendous. Amazing.
The first of these episodes is Trump Guy. Do I really have to say anything more about why this one is controversial?
I'm a huge fan of your board game, and your beef products, and your fraudulent university, and
Family Guy's never been one to shy away from political commentary, for better or for worse. But such a cartoonish portrayal of a sitting president obviously angered many of his supporters, while other viewers just found the messaging the show tried to make to be too heavy-handed and empty.
If Peter Griffin gets to be a jerk all the time, then why can't Donald Trump
Well, as soon as Peter Griffin starts affecting laws and policies, I'll have to hand it to you. I'll be happily awaiting the Peter Griffin Act that adds Petercopters to the national defense budget.
You're cash poor.
Say that again. I dare you.
And from the politically thin to the narratively thin, we have another lowly rated episode in Con Heiress.
I enjoy her company. Older women are cultured, worldly. I've got nothing to be defensive about her.
In it, Brian and Stewie both compete for the attention of a wealthy elderly heiress to potentially win her fortune when she dies. While it lacks an interesting use of this plot or any standout jokes, it does have one thing.
Who is she? That's Margaret Woolworth Carrington von Schumacher Chanel Astor Livingston Comte de Saint-Exupéry.
This reading out a very long name bit is done not once, but twice, taking up a full minute and a half of screen time. Seth MacFarlane loves his long, overly drawn out jokes. Remember when he made Neil Patrick Harris poop into a hat for a very long time in A Million Ways to Die in the West?
You mean the heir to the Woolworth Carrington von Schumacher Chanel Astor Livingston Comte de Saint-Exupéry?
You get the point. Apparently this one joke was so annoying that it seemed to single-handedly tank the episode's rating on IMDb. If you thought Conway Twitty was pointless, you ain't seen nothing yet. But the flops don't just stop there. As it turns out, season 17 is home to what is currently considered the absolute worst episode of Family Guy made so far.
Okay, welcome to Family Guy DVD commentary for episode 1614.
You Can't Handle the Booth currently sits at a 4.2 rating on IMDb, making it the lowest rated episode in the series by far. And I mean, have you seen this thing? It's a straight up fustercluck to watch.
Mr. Griffin was able to negotiate a higher salary because he's still paying alimony to his first wife.
So the gimmick of the episode is that you have the Griffins doing DVD commentary for a never-before-seen episode, which means the focus of the show is constantly jumping to and from what's happening in the episode and what's unfolding through the commentary. This means that most of the audio you'll hear won't match up with the visuals, making this a nightmare to follow.
Hi everybody, so sorry I'm late. I was stuck in the canyon.
Is that a euphemism for lesbian?
Want to know what's being said in the episode you're seeing? Well, that's too damn bad. Want to visualize what's happening in the actual plot of the episode? In your dreams. This idea may have sounded funny on paper, but in execution, it more or less embodies some of the worst habits the show would adopt, seemingly including a desire to wear down their audience with tiring gags rather than actual jokes.
This scene reminds me of the time I was being honored at the Kennedy Center.
Oh, bologna sandwich, Sarah!
But if the season that produced Family Guy's worst episode isn't at the bottom, then what is? Well, the answer may shock you. Or just make you say no duh. And currently, the lowest rated season of Family Guy, sitting at a 6.23 star rating, is season 22, which started in October 2023 and finished in April 2024. But if you were to not count the two Hulu exclusive episodes, Peter Pumpkin Cheater and Gift of the White Guy, which IMDb considers a part of season 22, while Wikipedia considers them season 23, that brings the season's rating down to a whopping 5.38 average.
And to think I was about to kiss you.
But what makes a poor, innocent season fall so low in the eyes of the audience? Well, while it doesn't have some of the most heinously bad episodes like the prior seasons, every single episode seemed to be very middle of the road with most audiences. Not a single episode in the season managed to break a 7-star rating, something every other season before can claim at least once. Consistency is key is what I always say, starting now, and season 22 manages to be consistently meh.
I must be dreaming, which means nothing's real.
There's The Return of the King of Queens, a Christmas episode where Peter tries to help actor Kevin James adjust to life after cable TV.
And doesn't Peter Griffin look handsome?
I took the cue cards.
It's currently the series' lowest rated Christmas episode, which isn't hard to understand considering the episode hardly has anything to do with actual Christmas.
Let me guess, one of you chuckleheads has a nutcracker inside you.
Then there's the episode Faith No More, which sees Brian going back in time to try and keep Christianity from existing.
Spicy meatball delights patron. Ugh. No one reports real news anymore.
Family Guy bashing religion isn't exactly untrampled ground for the show, and honestly, it probably would have been a bit more well received if it just stuck to Jesus becoming a stand-up comedian.
My mom's a That's fun. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I had to give her the talk.
See, I'd watch all of his stand-up specials until he gets canceled from an old off-color tweet from years ago, and then I gotta pretend like I never liked him. But the episode goes in a pretty cynical direction, portraying the world without Christianity as a world void of problems.
Shalom, Brian. Boy, this town has good medical care.
And it portrays God as an arrogant jerk who's willing to hurt people to get what he wants.
You don't think Einstein and Carl Sagan tried this crap? I had to send them to Noogie City.
Whoa, be careful not to cut yourself on this edgy social commentary. But when season 22 isn't offending, it's probably boring you to death, like with perhaps the low point of the season, a stash from the past.
Where did you get all this money?
It was easy. I took out a reverse mortgage, which is that thing where your house gives you free money.
An episode about reverse mortgage? Check. A Mayor Wild West plotline? Check. A heavy focus on an actor that most younger viewers won't even know? I already drifted to sleep after the last sentence, and now I'm in hypersleep.
I think you and I might just have to agree to disagree when it comes to the financial propriety of reverse mortgages.
And you may agree that this does not make for engaging television. Season 22 often feels like coasting, phoning it in, like a great season of television is just gonna write itself one day. The characterizations are bland, the stories feel inconsequential, and most importantly, they just don't seem to be making people laugh. That's the cardinal sin. That's the final nail in the coffin for a ton of shows. But surely season 23 will be better than this, right? Right? Please? But we want to know what you think the worst season of Family Guy is. Be sure to let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see even more great Family Guy videos.